Welcome to this tutorial. By the end of this tutorial, you're going to learn exactly what to know to become a Python backend developer, from absolute zero all the way to a backend developer. I'm also a backend developer using Django. I created so many applications using Django as my backend development, and I use Postgres database, and also I create API using REST framework. So if you stay to the end of this video, I'm going to tell you what are you going to learn to become a Python backend developer. Not just only Python backend development, and also other backend development with other programming languages like Node.js and the C#. Almost the roadmap is almost the same thing. You just have to change the perspective of programming language. So before we start, these are the things that we're going to talk about. Backend, what is backend development, and also roadmap to learn backend development. So let's start with the beginning, which is what is backend development. Well, in web development is a field in software development. That's when I say software development means sitting down in front of computer, writing code, and create application like Android application, uh, desktop application, and so on. And so all the websites that you are seeing like Facebook, Google, and whatsoever, they are all websites, and those websites, they are built from those people who are called web developer. So web developer are those who create websites, and app developer are those programmers who sit down in front of computer and create application. So you that you want to become a back-end developer, what exactly are you going to do, and what exactly are you going to be building? So like I said, web development is divided into two. We have front end and the back end. So you see, this is a browser, the browser that you use to sit down in front of a computer, launch a Google, and type and search. The browser like Google Chrome, Firefox, and Safari. This is the browser. So all what you are seeing in your browser, like a Google web page, Facebook when you are chatting, and other website that you are visited, all those what you can see is what the front end developer created. The front end developer is the one that sit down and write the code for the front end page, like what the user going to see. But the back end developer, no one even know he existed, but he's the most powerful guy in the industry, because without a back end developer, even the Google that you are searching website for is not going to be exist. So that's whatever you see in the browser, that's the role of a front-end developer that sit down and write HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to create that page. While in a server site, we will come to that. So you as a back-end developer, what is a back-end developer is doing is he usually work with the server. He write a program in a server. He make the program public in the internet so that everyone can be able to access it. And then when you created your front end, then you might communicate with the server, maybe by storing people information like their name, their pictures, and so on. If you can remember, in your Facebook account, when you're going to post, you're going to go on, click on a what to post, then you write the title of what you are going to post, you choose a picture, and then you click on post. When you post it, the the working on the front end is already is completely done. Then it's going to send all those information to their Facebook server, and the Facebook server is going to store your information in their database. So there is a database that usually connected. there is database that is usually connected with the server. So the server will then process all this information and then send it to the database. So what you are going to exactly a backend developer is doing is usually the one that is responsible for writing the code for the database, writing the code for the server side logic. How do you access this information and how do you store it? How do you process it? Working with other application inside our server. So I hope you understand the bigger picture of it. So as a backend developer, that's what you're going to do. You don't care about what is going on in browser. You have to care because it's very important for you to know. But what I mean that you don't care is you are not the one that is responsible for writing the code in the browser, making the web page look nice and whatsoever. No, a backend developer is taking care of the server side, storing information in the database, and responsible for giving a response to the browser. So in a browser, we use a technology like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. They are the technologies we use in browser to create a web pages. But in server side, we use technology, so many different kind of technology like Python. For the database, we use technology like Postgres and so on. So if you want to learn to write a server-side logic, you have to learn a programming language like Python or even the JavaScript that you already learned in front end. You can also use it. Python or C# or any other programming language that can be able to work in a server. And then PostgreSQL is a database, so you can also install in your in a database and write an SQL code, which is um, what they call it, query language. So this is what is backend development. Backend development is just focus on the back end of the system. How do we store people information, process their information, and do and so on and so forth. And there is one thing to know: back end development is not only specific for web development. When it comes to creating games, when a game developer creates a game and they need database to store their player information and whatsoever, they need a back end developer. If you are a blockchain developer, you need a back-end developer. So any field in software engineering, they need a back-end developer. AI engineers, machine learning, all of them that going to deploy their services to the internet and distribute it, they need a back-end developer. So back-end development, that's the reason why I like it. It's not specifically just single thing, but it's almost broad. It's almost everywhere. So if you learn it very well, so you are also everywhere, not just uh, not just specific to web development. So now we understand what is backend development. So what are we going to learn to become a backend developer? So the first thing that you're going to learn to become a backend developer, you need to choose a programming language. Yes, when you choose a language like in our case, we're going to go with Python programming. So you're going to start learning Python programming. So what are the things are you going to learn in Python programming? Well, the things you're going to learn in Python programming are the Python programming fundamentals like variables, string, data type, list, tuple, set, dictionary, module, package, how to work with all of those things. When you're done learning it, then create a simple project with Python programming just to solidify your understanding with Python programming. So start with learning Python programming, and it is fundamental. And also, just a quick note, I have a complete Python programming course in this channel, so you can go and check it out. When you learn Python programming, then the next thing you're going to learn is front end technologies, or I said web technologies. So you're going to learn about web technologies. When I say I say web development technologies like basic web, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So this you're just going to learn it just a little bit, You don't need to go way more further to create a very good looking web page. No need to do that. You just need to learn it a little bit to know how it works, so that it's going to help you when it comes to creating your backend application. You know how to handle stuff in HTML and also working with JavaScript. So when you learn about those technologies, then you're going to start learning about how website work. Why I said how web work. Learn about how internet and website work. How internet works. So how internet works, that include like HTTP. What is HTTP? How do we able to send information from this computer to another computer somewhere in the world, and then check this information, store it in a database, and when the user come back and log in, then we retrieve those information and also send it back to him. We learn about the security like HTTPS. How do we secure the information that we are transferring from one computer to the server? So you're going to learn about how the internet works, and you along that then you're going to learn about a little bit about database and so on, just to have a general overview and basic understanding of how those things work. Because by learning this and this, you are almost done to start learning framework of backend development. So when you understand how internet work and web development, or I said website development, then the next thing you're going to learn is framework. So framework, this include like Flask, then come to Django. So I usually in production, when I create a website, there is website I created. So most of the website I created, I use Django because I don't need to create almost everything from the scratch. Like how do I handle authentication, session, and how do I take care of login and whatsoever. So by using Django, they already take care of that. So what I just need to focus on is my server side logic, not taking care of the security measure and whatsoever. But the Plex is give me a full control of how do I want my backend to be. So you're going to learn about Plex and also Django. So these are the framework that you're going to learn. This framework is going to be used in a server side. For example, now we are creating we want to create a website. So when we come to their backend, instead for you to write everything from the scratch using your Python programming language that we learned from the beginning. For example, let's say assuming you are going to build a house. So for you to build a house, you have to create your own cement, you have to create your own block, you have to create your own field. You are the engineer of the field, you are the laborer, or I say recruiter of that field. You are the one that's going to do almost everything. So you see, it's going to be very, very exhausting and going to be very difficult for you. So that's why those framework works. It's the same thing in developing a website. Since you learn the programming language, instead for you to create a application that will send a request and accept a request, write a program to create a web server and whatsoever, what you just have to do is just use this one of those framework. Someone, some programmers, they already created this framework to do all of those things for you. What you just need to focus on is how your application is going to handle data and process the business logic. So this is the general overview of how to become a backend developer, and in our next video I'm going to look in depth to each one of this and explain exactly step by step what are you going to learn. Like I said here, you're going to learn Python. In summary, you're going to learn web technologies, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Then how internet works. Then you come on when you understand about HTTP, get and response. Then you come and learn framework like Platts, Django, and so on. So I'm going to start explaining all of this concept of how does internet stuff work, so that you will understand it better. So if you have any question regarding this tutorial, please let me know in the comment section below.